Primarily until now, we've been focusing on the pure styles of DISC. However, we normally have a combination of D, I, S, and C that personalizes our true behavior style. How you act is determined by the intensity of all 4 DISC factors, both high and low. In fact, over the past 5 years, we have found that less than 1% of the population is a pure D style, and about 2% of the population is made up of a pure I. The pure S is only 0.56%, and the pure C is barely 0.25%. This module will discuss combined factors that make up an individual's behavioral style. Chapter 5 of the TTISI Universal Language DISC textbook outlines over 25 of the most common style combinations. Make sure to review this very important chapter to better understand the descriptors and debriefing verbiage associated with these styles. These combinations tell a story about a person's behavior. Let's review a few of these typical combinations. Starting with the primary factor of high D, which we already know to be more demanding, driven, strong-willed, and decisive, how does adding a secondary factor of a high I alter the list of descriptors? This high DI is still typically direct and straightforward, but you start to see behavior such as inspiring, enthusiastic, and convincing added to the mix. They seek to solve problems persuasively with the support of people. They enjoy the challenge of understanding others and soliciting the help of others. Now, what if we combine a high D with a high S? The high DS is a results-oriented, consistent, deadline-conscious, and also a self-starter. They prefer limited daily activity and go after problems rather than wait to see how they come out. You can see, even though they both have a primary factor of D, the secondary of a high I or S can change the observable behavior. Style combinations are the reason why 2 individuals with the same primary factor might not portray the same behavior, even when they are faced with identical situations. However, you need to keep in mind that the primary style is the furthest away from the energy line. This could mean that the strongest observable behavior could be a low or extremely low factor. For this example, let's start with a low C as the primary and combine that with a high S. A low C is described as independent, self-willed, opinionated, and potentially careless with details. A high S tends to be passive, patient, and predictable. Combined, the low C, high S is described as persistent, persevering with a touch of independence. They hold on to their views even when they are contrary to the opinions of others. How about another example using the I as our primary? Let's see what happens when we combine a high I with a low D. Here we find an individual that is warm, cautious, and obliging. They look to others for support and inner satisfaction more than as a way to reach a goal. A high I and a high S is sociable and a good mixer. They actively seek communication and relationships with a variety of people. Having a combination of factors is beneficial. They not only change the descriptors and verbiage surrounding a style, but they have an effect on the probable strengths and possible limitations of the individual as well. Take, for example, a high D, high C. Some possible limitations of the high D include overstepping authority, disliking routine, and a lack of tact and diplomacy. However, when combined with a high C, the individual can offset those possible limitations with the probable strengths of their C, such as critical thinking, high standards for self, being well-disciplined, and accuracy. A combination is not only inclusive of 2 factors above or below the energy line. We also see combinations with 3 factors above the energy line. For example, someone with a high I, S, and C above the energy line has their own set of descriptors and tendencies that are different from the pure I, pure S, or pure C. They are a promoter, systematic, careful, and personable. They attempt to bring a team together in a well-organized manner and have the patience to listen to what others are saying. A high D with an I and C also above the energy line is more of a conductor. They make judgments of others based on their participation to the team because they get results through people. They set high personal goals and have a sense of urgency to make things happen. When you start to think of all the different style combinations, you can see how our DISC assessment results in thousands of different reports. It is common to see a combination of 2 or 3 factors over the energy line. If the report is showing that all 4 factors are above the energy line, we would call this an unusual graph. They are unusual because we tend to see them less than 2% of the time. Specifically, this unusual graph would be an overshift. The reason behind this overshift can range from not understanding the questionnaire or attempting to outsmart the assessment. Another example of an unusual graph is a tight graph. We often see an unusual graph from someone who is overthinking the assessment because they are trying to be an overachiever in the workplace. Another way to describe this is that they are trying to be all things to all people. Combinations manifest in both your natural and adapted style. Some people will see the exact same combination between their styles with minimal movement up or down between those factors. The person is a what you see is what you get type. No matter the situation, you will usually be able to predict their behavior style because of its consistency. Some movement between the natural and adapted is normal, but there is a point at which adapting our styles could possibly be detrimental. Shifts of more than 10 points up or down could be an indication of an over-adaptation or a bad fit in the workplace. The person may be guarding themselves out of fear, not understanding the behavior needed to be successful on the job, still uncovering who they really are, or simply trying to survive. When an adapted combination is the complete opposite of the natural combination, this is known as a graph disparity. A person showing a large disparity is most likely in the wrong role or profession and would be quick to burn out on the job. Luckily, these unusual graphs and adaptive disparities are not the norm. Understanding the unique disc graph combinations that make up a behavioral style is a fantastic way to better understand behavior and improve communication. It really is the story of human behavior. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of disc combinations.